Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency and Money podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I'm Tony Guerra, pharmacist and publisher, bringing you help succeeding in your career, health, and wealth before, during, and after residency. You can sign up for the email list at pharmacyresidencypodcast.com to get your free LOI template or get editing help working one-on-one with me at residency.teachable.com. Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I thought this was a neat kind of thing to look at. Most people talk about pharmacist salary surveys and see where they stand, but I think the net worth is much more telling and much more interesting to me, and much more important, because if you're going by the 4% rule and you want to replace a single pharmacist salary, and I think pharmacist salaries, as you know, by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, at 120,000, you would need 3 million to do that. So what we're really looking at is how many pharmacists are at 3 million where they can kind of exit this. And the question is, who's the kind of person that would fill out a survey like this? If you're sitting there, overlooking the, the beaches in Malibu, are you sitting there on SDN and like, oh, look at this thing, I'll just kind of pop in my answer or whatever. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but I think it's just kind of interesting, like, where do pharmacists end up, and is it millionaire, multimillionaire, and those types of things. So if you're just listening, I'll kind of read some of this off to you. When you're going from minus 1 million to zero, and we don't know how far that is, but it's about 15%. And that makes sense, because about 15,000 enter the workforce every year, and about a little over 80% of them have student debt, averaging, which is now a little over 160 rather than 175. So it's getting a lot better. But that makes sense that there's going to be that group there that's kind of working their way up. Then there's the much bigger group. So half of the respondents were between 0 and 1 million. So that's encouraging that they're on the path, as it were. And then a third of pharmacists were over 1 million. And at first you say, well, that's pretty good, I guess, over 1 million. But one, this is household net worth, so that means likely two people kind of responding. But also, when you talk about how you can get out of work and retire early or fire and all that stuff, really the rule of thumb is 4%. So if you want to replace a single pharmacist's income simply from investments, the idea is that you would need 3 million, which would be 4% were 120,000. Now, it seems a lot easier to reduce your expenses. And for example, my wife and I are going to have our house paid off when our children graduate from high school. So that takes a very large percentage out. And when you talk about the three big expenditures, housing or shelter, transportation, and food, we've taken out one of the big ones. And if we do a lot of eating at home, and we don't need as much transportation because we're not going to a job, that also takes out a lot. So maybe it's reasonable to retire with 1 million or 2 and have a comfortable life. But I just thought this would be interesting to you. But go ahead, if you want to, go ahead and put in the comments on YouTube, what's your net worth and what's your age range. That was something that was kind of missing from the survey. But an interesting thing if you want to look at it on the video. This has been the Pharmacy Residency and Money Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. You might want to check out our available residency audiobooks at pharmacyresidencypodcast.com/books, or you can get your first book free if you've never been on Audible before. You can work one-on-one with me to get a better residency that will better suit your career, health, and wealth at residency.teachable.com. Feel free to send an invite to Tony PharmD on LinkedIn or email me at tonythepharmacist@gmail.com. Music was by Policy.